Anthony DeBello, and welcome to NFL Moneyball, one in a line of series of Moneyball programs. We discuss the program system with L, in this case for football, NFL ES, or Extended Strategic Principles. You can find more information on the web at nfles.com. This program and audio record, perhaps I suspect you might call it a podcast, is the first. We're going to try to do all season long, focusing primarily on the NFL. Might throw in a little NCAA ESP, and then anything else that might come up during the course of the football season. But again, primarily the football season. I'm going to try to have this broadcast last about 30 minutes. We're going to break it up into two segments. The first is going to discuss NFL ESP principles in a program and analytical system I developed 15 years ago. Well, I actually developed it 45 years ago, but refined it 15 years ago and took it to the now head coach of the Chicago Bears, Mark Trestman. Coach Trestman was my college coach at the University of Miami. Then we became friends, worked together, and now we basically call each other brother. So I appreciate Coach very much, as he lent a small percentage to the development of this program and has utilized it to different degrees, and winning a couple Grey Cups up at the CFL before going to the Bears. But you can find more of that information online. And again, you can do that at either nflesp.com, or you can link directly through my personal website, which is markanthonydebello.com, and just click on the sports tab. So as I was saying, we're going to divide this program into two halves. The first half is going to cover the nflesp.com system as if you were, let's say, a head coach or a general manager, or even a team owner or the creator of a team. We basically focus on four areas, and I'll readdress these later, but they're spiritual, that component, motivational, strategy, and then lastly design, which could be play design, stadium design, uniform design, you name it. So those are basically the four main aspects. Again, spiritual, motivational, strategic, and then what we actually call X's and O's, which again is game or design. And then the second half of this program, again, hopefully going to last about a half an hour, might go over a little bit, might go under, is going to be for those who might have an interest in investing in games, or those who, I jokingly say would want to be a part owner for a week in a game of a team in their game. Certainly those who reside in the new Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a city out west that I believe is the new Sodom and Gomorrah, especially since I believe the United States is the new Roman Empire, but I'll address that later. So the fact that one of the aspects, the strategic, incorporates the use, and this is for NFLESP.com, incorporates the use of something we call the power spread, which is the differential and power rankings, and how that power spread should be used by a head coach to make game management and basic strategy decisions, and ultimately through a third coordinator in the booth called the GMC, or game management coordinator. Now, again, that data, that power spread data, might, and actually will become very valuable to those who, again, in the second half of the program have a vested interest in investing in games and, looking to profit in some way in an ancillary or, added market, if you will. So, but again, the primary focus is the development of the newfound system, which I was blessed to create, which is NFL ESP, or Extended Strategic Principles. And again, we have other ESP programs, NCAA, MLB, NHL. We're even developing PGA, CFL, so most of your major sports leagues, um, and collegiate major sports. So anyway, having said that, let me give you a quick overview, a little bit more about NFL ESP, and we're going to look quickly at some of the games and break them down here in the next 10 minutes, and then again address them more at about a minute per game in the second half of the program. You're going to see, as I designed this podcast or audio recording, some images across the screen, just these are actual images unless it's a drawing, obviously, or a graphic. Just sort of a montage to, give you some visuals as you listen. But I certainly encourage you to, because we're not really using graphics for statistical use or anything like that, or words, grab a writing implement and a piece of paper, or even on a laptop or a Word document, type in some notes, because it's quite important that you do so. I think it's only going to benefit you, as hope to be educational and enlightening in speaking about NFL ESP, again, extended strategic principles. And again, all these overviews can be found on the websites. And actually, my goal ultimately is to get this on television. I have had some success in TV, specifically the reality TV genre. You can find more information on that at www.realitytvcontestants.com. Again, that's realitytvcontestants.com, or again through my website at markanthonydevello.com. Now, typically, believe it or not, actually quite reclusive. I don't always give this data and information out. Certainly, I'm not going to share intimate and personal information in a ministerial sense that I've shared with Coach Trestman all these years, and he knows that everything we discussed is kept in confidence, and he, as a past lawyer, can appreciate those kind of privacy privileges. Again, it's just a unique system. Actually, Coach Bill Parcells used it, a variation of it, if you will, and then his offspring or progeny are probably the three most productive coaches at using this sort of data, and those are Coach Belichick, Coach Coughlin, and Coach Payton. So we're really trying to get this into the NFL and have had some success, but also from my end, in media, with a long history in media, I got to be honest, to hear the word expert thrown out there by people who I know are inaccurate in their assessments or ungodly, and because yes, I talk about God a lot, not so much here on this program today, or but maybe hopefully prayerfully throughout the season, because if you want to be the smartest at anything, you want to have the most knowledge and the most power and be the most productive, you better know God, because He is the greatest and the best at all of these, and He has infinite knowledge and infinite power, and He's the person that I most pray to and communicate with to get this information. So, and that's a shared belief Coach Trestman and I have, thank God, and and I have the utmost confidence and faith in God, and He's never failed to humble me either, should I be wrong. But I typically profess and prophesy that most everything I say is going to be 91% accurate. So when I hear quote-unquote experts on national, widespread media outlets giving misinformation, and just the way that they do it, they won't, anticipate something. They'll tell you, after the game what they thought, rather than, before the game, or 17 weeks of the NFL season in advance. And it's just, I'm not jealous. I'm not even necessarily bitter. Excuse me. Oh, God bless me. Now, this is live and real. I'm more angry. I mean, it seems very unjust to me. Yes, I would love a bigger platform, but I'm going to let my thoughts and these quote-unquote predictions, speak for themselves, if you will. And I think you're going to find this information to be second to none. So, having said that, we're about 10 minutes into the program here. and I'm going to start going through some of the games. And again, I'm going to cover them from the NFL ESP perspective, and you'll get a hopefully a quick idea without divulging too much information what that's about, and then give you an alternate version for those, like I said, who might have another interest. Okay, again, covering from the spiritual, the motivational, um, the strategic, and then X's and O's. Um, Spiritually, I always look for the teams and the players. It's no coincidence. They call it character. They call it class. I know it's Christianity when guys point to the sky and after scoring touchdowns and seem to score the most touchdowns. That's because they're thanking God and they believe in God, and from Him they gain all their power and their success. So, God does give winners. Just a quick story. Many years ago, after the hurricane, I actually had predicted or prophesied there'd be a hurricane down in New Orleans, and that a short time after, the Saints, of all teams, who I think ultimately should have moved to Los Angeles, were going to win a Super Bowl, and they did. I actually have a lot of thoughts and the hope and the goal of NFL ESP and even the program NFL Moneyball, the TV or radio show, or even this podcast or any media variable. I actually like the show and respect Colin Cowherd, who has a radio show, but it's also televised. I kind of like that multitask, if you will, if that's even a word, approach of broadcasting. But anyway, ultimately trying to get a team out to Los Angeles called the Archangels. You might see flashed up here a montage, a little bit of the helmet. I've designed the uniform. It's just a matter of, the financing and all the other things that need to be put in place. But I can certainly imagine, God bless, being an Al Davis type or managing, general partner of, I could probably never afford to own a team like that on my own, but I don't doubt that I can actually run a team and win a Super Bowl running a team. So I hope and think you're going to see that. So I've got about 18 minutes to go. I was born on the 18th, so let's get down to these games and NFL ESP. So the first game slated for the season in 2014 are the Seahawks and the Packers. I actually last year predicted the Seahawks would thump Denver in the Super Bowl somewhere in about maybe April, May, or June. Typically studying through 5 phases: coaching changes, then the draft, then I'm sorry, I might be out of order here. Free agency, then the draft, then preseason, and then actually the first 2 games of the season. I really just confirm everything after, visually looking at all the teams. But even before the first 2 weeks of the season, we had Denver over, playing Seattle, and Seattle thumping Denver in the Super Bowl. The NFC is much better power rated than the AFC. And I think you're going to see that again this year. And I'll give you my prediction right now up front. Seattle's going to face, I believe, in the AFC, the Patriots. I know the Patriots and believe the Patriots are going to have home field advantage. They're going to win probably about 13 games and, and have the home field advantage and go on and beat probably Denver, maybe another team, but probably Denver. And I'll get to that as we go through this show here in the Super Bowl. So I really like the Seahawks a lot. The Super Bowl champion always comes back to perform well. That first early kickoff game in the NFL, at least over the last 10 years. The only year it didn't really work out was last year. I think it was Baltimore and Denver. Don't hold me to that, but it was like the only loser in the last 8 or 9 or 10 years. So I actually saw some data, and this could go into that Sodom and Gomorrah market that I mentioned, where they were posting Seattle minus 14.5 and giving plus 270 or almost 2.5 to 1. And I like that play actually. So again, I think Seattle goes to the Super Bowl, and the NFC West obviously is the best, the most highly power rated division in football, and is going against one of the weak divisions. Actually, the 3 weakest divisions are all on a par. That's basically the NFC East, the AFC North, and the NFC North. So that's the division with the Packers, Bears, Lions, Vikings, and then the NFC East, which is Cowboys, Redskins, Eagles, Giants, and then the AFC North, which is Browns, Steelers, Bengals, and Ravens. Those teams are all basically about equal and all many points behind the NFC West. So That'll do it for Thursday's game. Again, Seattle should handily defeat Green Bay. Now let's go to Sunday, and we're about halfway through, so 15 minutes to go. And let me again tell you a little bit about NFL ESP here. Um, if Green Bay is listed, let's say, as a power spread underdog of about 5.5 points, they're going to have to make a couple aggressive basic strategy calls to go ahead and overcome that deficit. Because when you're a 5.5 point underdog, and I don't quite have my numbers in front of me, and I apologize, but you're probably about you have maybe a 33% chance to win that game. Next week, I'll probably promise I'll have all my data in front of me. But that's one of the things we look at. And actually, one of the reasons I most like Seattle before I get to Thursday is that we actually rank the quarterbacks, and that most games are decided production-wise, or productivity comes from these things. Number four is extended time for the quarterback, whether that's in the pocket to throw a pass, whether it's behind the line of scrimmage, extending the play, or certainly rushing yards. And there's probably, none better than Russell Wilson. We probably have Andrew Luck first. Then in the same category, Wilson, Kaepernick. I mentioned Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers is actually in that group. And these players are becoming in that position, quarterback, more productive than your old style drop back passers like Brady and Manning, although their greatest attribute is extending time in the pocket. And that's obviously due to the offensive line. But that's number four. The third thing is home field advantage. Home field advantage is typically anywhere between 3 to 4.5 points. Actually, low end is 2.5 points. That's Jacksonville. The high end is 4.5. That's Seattle. A few teams like Denver have 4 points, and then most every team has 3 or 3.5. Denver because of the altitude and other factors. But that's the second most productive area of a football game or team. And then second is turnovers, which most everybody knows. And we don't do turnovers on a +1, -1 scenario or statistical. We do a +3, +4, or -3, -4. 3 for a fumble, 4 for an interception. And then the difference, if it's a touchdown, typically a 7-point touchdown. So, we kind of refine that scale. And obviously Seattle is a dynamite turnover team and set all sorts of records in our data. I think about a +108 or 9 or something. And again, I don't have all the data in front of me in turnovers last year. So fumbles happen to be more, random and balance out, but interceptions certainly a byproduct of the quarterback throwing. Again, those, it is a quarterback-driven league for sure. And those numbers, really do make a difference. So those are the top three. And number one which is unbelievably a new revelation here that I just got this year, or the data had suggested this and I just learned it. I don't know, but it seems now that even more so than turnovers, basic strategy coaching decisions are becoming more prevalent and productive. Just a quick note on that. One coach can go 100 yards and score 8 points because he scores a touchdown and goes for it on 4th and 1, let's say, and goes for the 2-point conversion. And the other coach, his opposition, can actually go 99 yards, let's say, doesn't go for it on 4th and 1 and kicks a field goal. So you're only +1 yard, and yet you're 5 points better. You've got 100 yards total offense, they've got 99, and you're winning by 5 points. So those type of decisions, whether it's onside kicks, 3rd down, 4th down conversions, fake kicks, even the speed of the game, hurry up offenses versus slowing the game down, those coaching basic strategy decisions, that's at the heart and core of NFL ESP. And certain coaches are better than others. Actually, there are 5 or 6 top coaches are, as I mentioned, the aforementioned Coach Belichick, far and above the best. Then Coach Coughlin, there's a reason you win, as power spread 10-point underdogs when you're the Giants beating perfect teams. It's because of those aggressive strategy decisions and things like that, Coach Coughlin. Then we've got Coach Payton. And then the second sort of grouping is Coach Tomlin, Coach McCarthy, those gentlemen, and there's a couple others up there. But most coaches really coach quite unproductively, to be honest with you. So anyway, having said that, Let me go through the rest of the schedule here quick because we only got about 10 minutes to go. Looking at Sunday, the Saints are playing the Falcons. The Saints are going to be probably a better team this season. I like Drew Brees a lot. He's up in that category of great quarterbacks. Matt Ryan is great, but he's more of a drop back type. I don't. I had meetings with the Falcons this year. They didn't take us on or hire me, so just the way Denver didn't do last year. So I kind of knew that Denver was going to bomb in the Super Bowl. But having said that, the Saints are a much better team. The Falcons will do a little bit better than last year, but everybody talked about their injuries. But teams are injured because they're not that good. That's why injuries aren't some excuse. It's a byproduct of the ability and talent of a team, and there's some other things to injury. So I definitely like this Saints during the season, but for tomorrow's game or Sunday's game, I like the Falcons better. Too many people like the Saints, and everybody in the media and throughout the country is pumping up the Saints. That'll make a big difference for the Falcons come the first game. The next game up is the Vikings against the Rams. I actually had said that I didn't like Sam Bradford. I didn't think he was going to be the best quarterback for the Rams, that something might happen. And sure enough, he got hurt in the preseason. Actually, that's going to be a benefit right now with the power spread and data for the Rams. Sean Hill, I think, is going to play very well the first couple, 3-4 games, and then it's going to kind of catch up that he's not, a premier quarterback. But the drop off between Bradford and Hill is negligible, and I think you're going to see that. The Vikings going to have a rough go of it in that temporary stadium that they're in. They're not that good a team anyway, and they're in as I mentioned, a weak division. They're playing a team in a very strong division. Like I said, the NFC West with the Rams. So the Rams should win this one, and I don't. Again, if the Rams were in the toughest division in football and had a better quarterback, they would be, they'd be up there contending actually for a wild card, believe it or not. Vikings, I don't think are going to be anywhere. The next game up is the Browns and Steelers. Actually, you know what? I think I might make this program 40 minutes long, depending on how long I talk. I've written in a blog. They took it down. Maybe I'll write it again. First, the Steelers, I think, are obviously getting older, and I think they've reached their peak, and they're going to see a demise in them. And they're in that weak AFC North I mentioned. And the Browns, I think we're an up-and-coming team. I actually like the ownership group. They do reality TV. And again, I mentioned the reality TV contestants.com website I created. But the Browns, and I'm dead certain of this, you're going to see them probably lose their first 3 games with Brian Hoyer up until the bye, and then Johnny Manziel's going to come in. And then you're going to see them win maybe, I'd say, 6 of the next 8, 7 of the next 9, something like that, because I believe Johnny Manziel will be one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL in this next decade. I truly do. He's the new model, okay, sort of in the Cam Newton model, but with a different, aspect, let's say, maybe a higher, IQ or intelligent quotient or, just a different style of play, maybe a little chaotic. But again, those great running quarterbacks, I don't think you're going to find any better than Johnny Manziel, and I really believe Johnny Manziel can play, and he's going to win games for the Browns. I would rather have seen him on another team. The Cowboys, as I noted in my blog, really blew it by not picking Johnny Manziel. That would have been the perfect home for him, and the Cowboys are going to regret that decision for the next 10 years. The next game up is the Jags against the Eagles. The Jags, I mentioned, have the lowest home field advantage. I've tried to deal with their ownership group there, Mr. Khan. Regrettably, they're just really, really a bad team. I like Chip Kelly, what he does some innovative things. The Eagles are in, a good team, but in the weakest team. In that weak division, but the best team. And I don't foresee anybody but the Eagles winning that division, and they should beat the Jags here. If they're going to, the power spread on this game is basically 11, and it's going to be pretty close to that, one score or another, I think, maybe 14 down to 8. So it's kind of a toss-up game, but if a lot of people are investing in the Eagles, I would certainly want to be investing in the Jags. That previous game, I would invest in the Browns with 6.5 points in the power spread. And if you're the Browns, you're going to have to do something to overcome that. That's 6.5 points. You got to keep track of the turnovers, but the Browns are going to have to do something to overcome that 6 point deficit. Like the Jags are going to be really dramatic. Uh, and the speed is quite a factor in that game from NFL ESP perspectives. The Eagles, when they're a better team, if they run a lot of plays, when you're the better team and you have a higher power spread advantage, you want to run more plays, that fast, hurry up offense. If you're the Jags, you need to slow that game down. You need to really use up all the play clock. Uh, like a four corners in old basketball, college basketball, when they had a really long shot clock or no shot clock. So you really got to slow the game down if you're the Jags and speed it up if you're the Eagles. And contrarily, if you're the a power spread underdog, you really want to, like I said, you don't want to run a hurry up offense. It's going to not be very productive in the end. So again, that game's too close to call with that power spread data. But the Eagles, there's no way they lose to the Jaguars. Straight up. The Jets, Raiders, I like what the Jets are doing with their quarterbacks. They're all sort of in that same mold, that Michael Vick, Geno Smith mold, and I don't know the name of the third guy there, but I actually like him as well. The Jets, I think, actually make the playoffs from the AFC. The Raiders are improving, but they're not a good team. The power spread data here, they've got listed 4.5, which means apart from home field advantage, the Jets are just 1.5 point favorites or better. There's definitely the Jets are 1.5 point better than the Raiders. 1.5 points better. I like the Jets, and I think they can, win with the 4.5 point power spread. But maybe, a turnover or two, and the Raiders can keep this close. Since I'm pretty sure most people like the Jets and nobody likes the Raiders. So just at least in week one, if I had to, I would either lay off or take the Raiders. The next game is the Bengals and the Ravens. I think the Bengals missed the playoffs this year. I think they're hugely overrated. They lost a couple of coordinators that come from that weak division, even though the Ravens are also in it. And the Ravens won the Super Bowl 2 years back, and I think actually the Ravens win this division, and I think we'll win this game. The power spread is a little screwy. Last year, the Bengals rated about 3 points, 3.5, 4 better in their 2 games, and now they're only a half-point better. So the numbers are in the side of the Ravens. I'm sorry, the Bengals. You would think that they could, get the points and win this game with that power spread of the Ravens giving 2.5. But I think the Ravens are just a better team. I think the Bengals are going to hit the wall. Those coordinators were the two best coordinators, in that type of team, and they went out and got head coaching jobs. That shows you how good they are. So you miss two guys like that, it's going to be a huge difference. So I think the Ravens are going to win that one. The Bills against my Bears. God bless Coach Trestman. I love him. And I hope and can only hope and pray he has learned more each year that we've been working together from an NFL ESP perspective. Now, he's a 6.5 point power spread favorite, moving up 7.5 for those of you with that other interest. And if they just call, when you're a favorite, the main thing to do is to not do anything too dramatic, unless, of course, you're really down in the turnover ratio. Excuse me. You can just be conservative in your basic strategy decisions, and Coach is good at doing that. He always makes the right basic strategy decision apart from the NFL ESP, which he's actually still learning. And they're using the old antiquated system there with a different coordinator this season, and different than myself, I should say, and that's not going to be productive for the Bears. But this game's going to be much closer than that. The Bears probably won't win by more than 4, all things being equal. And the Bills might actually win this outright because everybody seems to be investing in the Bears. And when you see a power spread like 6.5, that's sort of a trap to tell you that you want to take the power spread underdog in that game. Same with 2.5. So I really think the Bills will, and I'm really sorry for the coughing, we'll keep that close. But again, Coach Trestman, God bless you. God bless the Bears. I love them dearly. And him, he's my brother. And really for the Bears, it all comes down to the randomness of the defense that General Manager Emery put in. If he hit it right, the Bears will win the playoffs. Last year I predicted they were 50% chance against Green Bay. They'd probably come right down to the final play. That was in like week 1. This year I think it's going to be the same thing except for Detroit. I think it's going to come down to the last game, last play or two, and between Detroit and Chicago. If Chicago hit their defense just right, they can win the division. Detroit, I love the change from Coach Caldwell from Coach Schwartz, the discipline. But Coach Caldwell's downside is that he's too conservative in his basic strategy decisions, and I project that in the final week that he's going to be a little too conservative, and it's going to cost them the division. But either way, that's if the Bears hit it on defense, they should nip the Lions, and if not, then the Lions will win that division. Mostly, definitely because of the coaching change. I never thought much of Coach Schwartz and his undisciplined nature, and while Coach Caldwell isn't the greatest coach in the NFL, it's a dramatic improvement for the Lions with that talent. Okay, next game up, Redskins and Texans. I think the Redskins are a bad team. Actually, I think, and I said this before, that Kirk Cousins should be starting, and I would have traded RG3, and the Redskins would have had a chance to win that division. I still feel the same way. I think Clowney's good for the Texans. I think the Texans are going to make a dramatic improvement and actually be the wild card team in the AFC. They'll be the worst of first, like I projected Kansas City would be last year, although a lot of people projected that. Well, we got about 10 minutes to go in this broadcast, just so you know. I'm going to keep it to 40 minutes. So I think you're going to see that big improvement with the Texans. I liked Case Keenum. They got rid of him. I actually used to like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I also think if the Cowboys didn't get Johnny Manziel and the Texans did, the Texans would win that division against the Colts. And I think that was a huge blunder, too. Johnny Football's got to be in a small market city or a home city where he doesn't get distracted. And, the Houston would have been a perfect place for him. But again, I think Houston should have no problem this week one defeating the Redskins. I don't see the Redskins as a half point better if you didn't include the home field advantage, which is 3 points. Again, I just think the Texans are going to be a tremendous reversal. I kind of like that coach, and and I know for a fact that team quit last year. There's no way that's just a 2-win team. Okay. Next game is the Chiefs. Speaking of turnaround teams, and the Titans. The Chiefs, I think, are dramatically overrated this year. Andy Reid got in there last year. They got an easy schedule, new coach. I think Andy Reid is overrated. God bless him. I wish I worked for the Chiefs, though, and I love Andy Reid. I'm not trying to. All these coaches are great. All these players are great. Believe me, if they weren't, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So it's just kind of comparatively. But I love Coach Reid. I wish they hired me and they didn't. So, but again, no disrespect to the Chiefs, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the playoffs this year. And I think the Titans should probably win this game, this first game. But the only downside is too many people are against the Chiefs now. And when the people go one way, you should go the other way, because 90% of the time they're incorrect, no matter what they think, especially these quote-unquote TV experts. The next game coming up is the Patriots and Dolphins. That number's too big. That power spread data has the Patriots about 6.5 points better than the Dolphins, and they might be, and they might just do what Seattle, I project, is going to do, which is run through the number, which means sort of, win easily. And I think, like I said, the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. They have 13 wins. I love the addition of Darrelle Revis, and the best player on that team, the most productive, is Vince Wilfork, and he's back. I think the receiver's going to be better, and I like Coach Belichick is the best. And the Dolphins, I think, are hugely overrated. I love what their ownership group does. But again, I think the Patriots are much, much better, and I think you're going to see them run through the number, even though everybody is, moving on the Patriots, and that power spread number is too large. But again, it's when you're the Super Bowl champs, you beat that power spread number a lot. Okay, Panthers and Buccaneers. I think the Panthers, as many people project, aren't going to quite have a good season. They're still a dominant, very good team. They have a very tough schedule. I think they're better than the Bucs. I think too many people are speculating the Bucs are going to be dramatically improved. I think the Bucs will be improved, but the Panthers are still the better team. But in the long haul of the season, they might only end up with 6 or 7, maybe 8 wins, only because of the difficulty of schedule. It's almost the luck of the draw for the Panthers. But Cam Newton, I just think he's amazing, and I think Kelvin Benjamin, I think his name is going to fill in nicely at the wide slot there. In this game, I would definitely, even if Cam Newton doesn't start, I would still almost think you want to take the Panthers, okay? In that, for those of you investing in a sense. 49ers, Cowboys. Cowboys aren't a good team. I just know by missing the draft pick that they're not a good team. They're not a good team anyway. They're in a weak division. Um, 49ers, I think, are a bit overrated. They do come in the NFC West, though, but I would never invest in the 49ers this week. Too many other people are. I wouldn't even invest at all. But if you had to put a trigger to my head, I would take the Cowboys. But excuse me, I would stay away. Colts and Broncos. Andrew Luck, I think, is probably the best quarterback in the NFL. To be honest with you, uh, bar none. He's terrific. I think the Broncos are going to hit the wall a little bit. They're going to have Super Bowl hangover. They got a tougher schedule. If Peyton goes down, God bless, I hope he doesn't, but they're done, and he's not getting any younger. One of these times, something's going to happen. But I like the Colts, and I think that game's going to be the power spread data should probably be more about Broncos giving 10. They're only giving 7.5, but throwing a couple turnovers. And again, that hangover from the Super Bowl last year. If Seattle can go out and thump Green Bay, that same high, if you will, that they had from the Super Bowl will be the same low that the Denver Broncos carry over from the defeat that they suffered at the hands of the Seahawks last year. And I think you're going to see the Broncos start their season quite poorly, and it's going to cost them throughout. They'll win that division probably by default with about 10 wins. All right, we've got 2 games left in about 3 minutes. The Giants against the Lions. The Giants are terrible. As a matter of fact, it's almost the same situation as in Washington. I think Ryan Nassib is the heir apparent to Eli and is much better than Eli. Eli Manning, they won. The probability factors on Eli just heaving up long passes worked from the years that they won the Super Bowl. Now it's caught up to them. They tried to change. They're changing the offense to West Coast, which is a more precise game. It's not going to benefit Eli. People think it's going to, but it's not. The Giants are 5-0 in preseason because Ryan Nassib plays more than Eli Manning. Okay, no disrespect to Eli Manning, but Ryan Nassib is a better quarterback. And I think if you see this season, if Eli gets hurt, you're going to think a lot of people are going to jump against the Giants, and that's when they're going to make their move and be better this year. But again, that's still a really, really bad team. The Lions, I already mentioned it at length. I think they're going to do a great job and win that division. And in some circles, they were listed as 3-1 in that new Sodom and Gomorrah to win this division. And I think, like I said, it's going to come down to them and my beloved Bears. Well, not even my beloved Bears, my beloved coach. I'm not so thrilled with the Bears, but I love the coach. All right, got a minute and a half in one game. Chargers, Cards. I think the Cards make the playoffs, and a rarity, again, that you saw last year. You get 3 teams from one division to make it. This year they do Cards and definitely the Seahawks. Hopefully, maybe the Niners get the wild card in the 3rd spot in that division, but I think the Cards are highly improved. I always liked Carson Palmer. I think he's the best pure passer in the game, to be honest with you, next to Peyton Manning. I think the Chargers are overrated. I'm not quite sure how they got to the playoffs last year. I know they did. I know they got in the last minute. And if people are going to be investing in the Chargers, I would want to be investing in the Cardinals this week for sure. But again, I think the Cardinals have a good defense. And again, Carson Palmer is just his 2nd year in the system, is a highly, highly accurate, great quarterback. And I think you're going to see the Cards there. So we've got about a minute and a half to go. God bless everybody for listening. So I kind of gave you a rundown, and actually NFLESP.com is in the LVH Super Contest. I want to give a shout out to my partner in that contest who invested. B-Rad is his nickname. So we're 50-50. I do the picks, and he put up the financing. So prayerfully, we have a great season. Not sure if we're going to put Seattle on our first game or not, but I know that's a 90% guaranteed winner. But I think there's about 5 or 6 others that we can throw in. And we're going to be in some other contests and, still progressing and doing a lot with NFLESP.com and trying to develop NFL Moneyball, this program, get it out to some networks. We had some chances last year, but people in this, and I'll close with this spiritual note in 30 seconds. This world system is crazy upside down. The people who have the most knowledge talk to God, the most creative, God bless, like myself, make the least money, it seems, because that's not what I'm about. It was freely received, freely given. And those who are quote-unquote experts who are making all sorts of cash in a cash system, cash culture, maybe not as godly as they should be. Well, God bless them in the next life. So, thank God. God bless you all for listening. We're closing in right on 40 minutes. This is Mark Anthony DeBello.